I'm thankful. The message is still the same, but I want to point out a few areas that I feel are significant. They impacted on me, and I would like to share, inshallah. We want to talk about the first generation, those who were close to the Prophet ﷺ, and what the message was. Before I go there, I want to just say a little bit about what I just said. The best word is the book of Allah, and indeed successful is he who adorns his heart with the word of Allah, and whom Allah has favored with Islam and turned him away from paganism. Brothers and sisters, we have some unraveling to do. Because when you reflect back on the era, some who are my age and some who are younger, you'll see that we were subjected to a lot of things that had nothing to do with the natural pattern established by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many things that we heard were geared to take us into a zone, and I always said, where appetites were stimulated and unchecked by knowledge. We were ones who were wandering in distractions, searching. I think about some of the lyrics in some of these songs from back in the day. Like one that kept, I had to laugh. Even though it's serious, it still struck me funny. And I don't know the group, but they were saying, this brother was saying to his sister, he's trying to convince her, and he's saying that he would do all the things she wants him to do. You know, he will sacrifice for her and even do wrong for her. So these are the things that we were hearing, you know, and it took us on a journey, and alhamdulillah, that we made it here. Through all of that, through all of those distractions, we made it here, alhamdulillah. When we look at the first generation, those who, Sahabas, Tabi'in, who were closely in close connection with the Prophet ﷺ, and we want to understand that the message and how they received it. And what the instructions translated to at that time. It translated into action. And this was the method of the first group of Muslims. The method of later generations was instructed for academic discussions and enjoyment. And without doubt, this is the second major factor which made later generations different from the first unique generation. When a person embraced Islam during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he would immediately cut himself off from the Jahiliyyah. When he stepped into the circle of Islam, he would start a new life, separating himself completely from his past life, where under the ignorance of divine law. He would look upon the deeds during his life of ignorance with mistrust and fear. Today, we're still evolving because you see how the influence of the dunya, the material world, is sweeping a lot of our brothers and sisters. So, in the life of ignorance, with mistrust and fear, with the feeling that these were impure and could not be tolerated in Islam. With this feeling, he would turn toward Islam for new guidance. And if at any time temptations overpowered him, or the old habits attracted him, or if he became lax in carrying out the injunctions of Islam, he would become restless with a sense of guilt and would feel the need to purify himself. And this is the steps that we have to take constantly, because Shaitan wasn't joking when he said that he's going to seduce all but the firm in faith, and that he's coming from the front, the back, and both sides. And I always mention this because it's important to notice. But he knew who was in control. This is why he asked for respite. He asked Allah. And he got that permission. And he said he's going to seduce all but the firm in faith. So when we look at our iman, faith, that elevating path through which upright human nature can ascend to its ultimate perfection. Our iman is a light to show you where to place your feet along that elevating path. It's a connection between you and your Lord. And once that connection is broken, the inevitable is a decline. So this is why we want to hold on to that natural pattern. We're surrounded with Jahiliyyah today, ignorance. And which is of the same nature as it was during the first period of Islam. People involved might have changed, but the actions are still the same. When we look at first revelation that was brought to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, and it was Iqra. Read, O Prophet, in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clot of congealed blood. Read, and your Lord is most generous, who taught knowledge by the pen, taught man what he did not know. When the angel Jibril said to the Holy Prophet, Iqra, the Prophet ﷺ replied, I cannot read. This indicates that an angel had presented these words of the revelation before him in the written form and had asked him to read them. But the angel had meant that he should repeat what he recited. He should not have replied, say, I cannot read. Read in the name of your Lord, Bismillah, and read. This shows that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, upon whom be peace, even before the coming down of this revelation, regarded and acknowledged Allah alone as his Lord. Regarded and acknowledged Allah as his Lord. And this is why there was no need to ask who his Lord was, but it was said, read in the name of your Lord. The word khalaqa, created, has been used absolutely, and the object of creation has not been mentioned. This automatically gives the meaning, read in the name of the Lord, who is the creator, who created the whole universe and everything in it. After making mention generally of the creation of the universe, mention has been made of man in particular, saying how Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, made him a perfect man, starting his creation from an insignificant, humbled state. Allah is plural, and Allah, which means congealed blood. And this is the primary state a few days after conception. And as I mentioned before, those stages from a congealed clot to a fetus lump, then bones covered by flesh. And here we are, alhamdulillah. If I could digress, this is such a blessing. It's such mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we understand that it's something beyond this dunya. We understand who's running everything, who's in control of everything, who knows your innermost thoughts before you even think them, closer to you than your jugular vein. After making mention generally of the creation of the universe, and I mentioned how Allah made him a perfect man, starting his creation from an insignificant, humble state. Allah is plural. And as said, Allah, which means congealed blood. And this is the primary state of the embryo. And this can also be located in details in Surah Al-Hajj. And this is the great favor of Allah, that starting man's creation from a most significant state, he made him possessor of knowledge. I always toy with words. Knowledge, knowing the ledge. Knowing where we're going and yielding our will to the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has extended to us. Allah, the word Allah, the attached maths, Iqra, due to the scantiness of the English language as compared in Arabic, Iqra would mean proclaim or make known. Education in the form of divine guidance was needed to lead mankind back to morality and godliness. To lead us back, because in Jahiliyyah, they was doing everything in the book. You name it. And this knowledge was already in this great soul. And what Allah was doing through the means of the Archangel Jibril was activating or bringing out what was already stored in this great soul. The word education comes from the Latin inducia, meaning to lead out of or to bring out of. And in the Quran it says, proclaim the truth is in you. In the name of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created everything. Allah created man to be attracted to you and the truth within you. Proclaim the truth, for your Lord's generosity to an erring mankind is your being. So Iqra derived from a verb, kara, hara, hara, ha. According to the dictionary, this root word, kara, means to put something together piece by piece and part by part. And if you notice that Revelation, when it came down piece by piece. It was a message for the people and what they were going through at that time. And it says Allah teaches man by the pen. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, as recorded by Hazrat Imam Hafid, is Sahih by Imam Bukhari, and it says, O Jabir, most certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the Nur, as our brother spoke about in his last talk, how the Nur comes from, we want it to come from every angle for us. the light of your Nabi before anything else. Then, when he decided to create the world, he divided the Nur, the light of your Nabi, into 4 portions. From the first portion, he created the Kalam, the divine pen that records on the Lah I can't distinguish the Arabic here. The Al on the Lah al-Muhfuz, Muhfuzu. Oh, alhamdulillah, shukran. Mahfuz. Of destiny from the second, and brother can help me, Lah al-Mahfuz. And the third, he subdivided the divine portions. From the first of these portions, he created those angels who are the bearers of the Arsh, the divine throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the second, the divine chair, the Kursi, Ayatul Kursi, which is mentioned in that particular ayah, Ayatul Kursi. And from the third, the rest of the angels. So a portion remains for an ever-evolving universe. This message is for all times. The message and the guidance didn't stop when Prophet Muhammad was called back to Allah. It didn't stop. It was in their hands and it's in our hands now. And the knowledge is inborn. Knowledge in reality is recollection, recalling. It's actually memory. And therefore the Holy Quran is called dhikr, remembrance. Because what you are doing is remembering what was already put in you. And Allah says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى الذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah makes the Quran easy for you to remember. And those words had their immediate source in the inner reality of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, since he lived in constant harmony with this reality. The soul, the ruh, or essential being, is that center within man which is attracted and drawn back to the source. If you look at the natural pattern of things, we are headed back to the source, willingly or unwillingly. And this is just a reminder, and inshallah, give us more of an inclination to yield our will to those divine laws and to keep our inclinations in accordance with what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ brought, which is the Quran. I remember brother saying that the main job is to improve the contents of life and moral intelligence for the individual and for the nation, and that habits of the heart and mind are the more important possessions to watch over and improve upon. But getting back to the ruh, endeavors to pull the essential being, qalb, towards Allah, qalb. While the lower self, the nafs, exert a downward pull on the heart, qalb, your heart. The human spirit, the ruh, is also Allah's spirit, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed his spirit into man. Thus, it is the essence of man. And the spiritual heart, the qalb, is the nucleus of the soul. Thus, it never ceases to function. According to Islam, the universe, which is of an expanding and evolutionary character, began within the waves of probability as a nucleus of light, known in Islamic terminology as the light of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that this light has continuously unfolded itself. The hadith is, I exist because the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all existence comes into existence due to my light. Is the foundation of the universe, and all creation came through him. The fact that confirmed the Holy Prophet ﷺ's sincerity is the fact where his closest friend and the people of his household, who were immediately or in his private life and could not detect any difference in his public life and his behavior at home. The example, we have the example. And the example is the exercise of tolerance. Exercise of tolerance. You know, I mean, with all that we've come through, there's people who don't know our experience here in the West. With all that we have come through, we still have to be tolerant to ignorance. Not saying you accept it, and not to say that you don't address it. You know, but there's a way to address it. And if you don't have the example, you won't know. We'll get emotionally hijacked and handle it that way. But this is what we don't want, because a lot of times when you handle it that way, you end up in a worse situation than you would be in the beginning. So we look to the Prophet ﷺ for his example. And saying, it says, hate the evil, but not the evildoer. Now this is an exercise in tolerance. You know, because what you want to address at that point is the action. It's hard for us to distinguish sometimes, you know, the action and not, you know, move toward addressing the action doer. So you have to address the action. And if the action doer did something that he might have to be accountable for, you have to deal with that. But that is a practice that really requires some looking at. And it's a blessing, alhamdulillah, that we have the example. And there's no compulsion. There's no compulsion in this view. There is no compulsion. You cannot try to make someone accept what is being said. The position is to make the message public and clear. Because and after you've done that class, you know, you've done your part. See, Islam is what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ preached and what he practiced. And that is Islam. And we must study the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and try our level best to imitate him and his example. Whereby alone we can acquire greatness. And Islam is not based on any mysterious dogma. And we have to be patient with those who don't believe like we believe. Because we understand a lot of what they believe is a lie. And if you look at in history at Africa at the time, there was a tribe called the Bambara in West Africa. And they used to say, they didn't have all the information, but they used to say, Mangele. Mangele. Who is Mangele? Where is Mangele? Mangele has no beginning and Mangele has no ending. What Mangele says is, this is what they said. They didn't have all the information, but they were moving in the right direction. But you have those, and they say a lie. You have people who actually live in lies and thinking that they got the real deal. Because we know that Isa alayhi salam wasn't crucified. They believe that. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that Isa alayhi salam said, worship me, I'm God. Nowhere you won't find it. So this is a lie. And the Bambara said, lies taint your blood. It's like a moral leprosy. But you still have to be patient in your interaction. You have to be tolerant. You know, when you acknowledge certain information. I have relatives that don't want to hear nothing. You know. So I state my position and keep it moving. Islam is a way of life based on action. Unless, as we build up that action, can build up our lives as spiritual and moral giants, that Islam wants us to be, we would not be regarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment to have done our duty. So it's our responsibility to make the message public and clear. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. آمنت بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسوله واليوم الآخر وقدر خيره وشره من الله تعالى بيد الله. we have to be mindful of what we are enjoining ourselves with, our belief, our iman, our faith, is that we believe in the loss. We believe in faith and destiny. We believe in good and evil. We believe in the angels. We believe in the unseen. We believe in the resurrection. We believe in the resurrection, and we believe in the hereafter. That morality, you know, I just in moving about in society today, and appetites there that are being generated, you know, for you to embrace, it's a lot of weak ideas. It's geared toward appetites for the flesh. They got mirrors, you know, that increase your vanity. You working out, and all you do is look at yourself while you're working out. You know, you got our sisters, a lot of them. You know, they let the blow hair blow. You know, I'm not knocking nobody for, you know, how they want to present themselves, but I look at those who are behind presenting information that, you know, lures people into these ideas. It is constant. It is constant. It can be said that Muhammad, alayhi salam, peace be upon him, was capable of starting a movement of moral reform for the establishment of moral standards, for the purification of society, and for self-evaluation. Reflect. When you identify something that you know is a shortcoming in your own personality, then chip away at it, you know? Get it to the side. And he would have found some upright and straight people who were also unhappy about the moral degeneration of their society. And these people would certainly have come to him to join his reformist movement. One can say that if Salam had chosen this course, he would have easily gathered a sizable group, because their moral purity and spiritual fortitude, this group of people, more than others, would have accepted the belief in the unity of God and would have carried the responsibilities pertaining to it. The Prophet's call, there is no deity except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, would have been spared the vigorous opposition which it encountered. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that this way is not the way. He knew that morality can only be built on iman, on faith. Morality can only be built on faith. That light to show you where to place your feet along what path? The elevating path. through which upright human nature can ascend to its ultimate perfection. A faith which provides criteria, creates values, defines the authority from which these criteria and values are to be derived, and prescribes the reward of the one who accepts this authority and the punishment of those who deviate or oppose. I remember brothers used to, really try to jam things down people's throats. You accept this, and you can't roll like that. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried this generation of people, they proved steadfast, relinquishing their own personal desires. And when Allah Most High knew that they were not waiting for any reward in this world, now were they desirous to see the victory of this message and the establishment of this religion on earth by their hands. When their hearts became free of pride and lineage, of nationality, country, of tribes, or household. In short, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Most High saw them to be morally pure, then He granted them the great trust. Since they were pure in faith, the requirement for which is that Allah's sovereignty alone extends over hearts and conscience in human relationships and morals. We have to apply this stuff. I know people who think they're applying, but in 1 minute they're here and the next minute they're here. If the call to Islam had not started in this manner, discarding all banners other than there is no deity except Allah, and if it had not taken that path, which apparently was difficult and trying, but which in reality was easy and blessed, then it would not have been possible to establish this blessed system with this high standard. Had this call come in its initial stages as a national call or a social movement or reformist attempt, or had it attached other labels to the call of La ilaha illallah, then this blessed system would never have been for the sake of Allah alone. So we have to hold on to that, inshallah. Hold on to that ideal. When things feel heavy, give it to Allah. Give it to Allah, because you will immediately, and I bear witness, you can immediately receive relief. And as mentioned, this human problem, which does not change, this is the question of man's existence in the universe, his ultimate goal, and his position and relationship to the universe, and the question of the relationship between him and his creator of the universe. This aspect of man's life cannot change as it relates to his very being. clothing says Allah will never change the condition of people until they change what is in their heart. Once you make those, once you identify, you know, and you see shortcoming within your own character, yield your will to the divine laws and keep your inclinations in accordance with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or with Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam has brought, which is the Quran. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad Sayyidina Allah Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, if I said something that is incorrect, it's definitely for me. Because in this deen al-fitra, natural pattern that Allah has established, there's no flaws. It's just how we handle ourselves. You know, if we're going to handle ourselves with the right spirit. Salam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.